Hello, this is a response video to Thorias Unlimited's review of the just-released film, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Before we begin, I would like to share some of my thoughts of Across the Spider-Verse. It was a fine movie, but I definitely preferred the first film more. It was definitely a huge and ambitious film, but the film does suffer from pacing issues. I know this is a two-parter movie, but the film structure feels a little unbalanced since it focuses on the introduction, rising action, but ends during the climax. But enough about that. I'm here to review Thorias Unlimited's review on Across the Spider-Verse. If you don't know who Thorias Unlimited is, he is a YouTuber who is known for making the Batwoman reviews. While I have respected his opinions in the past, this recent take on the film is by far one of the worst takes I have ever heard. The first part of the video is him complaining Spectacular Spider-Man had a short scene in the movie even though it was clear that his appearance was going to be a cameo.
But I saw and am reviewing Across the Spider-Verse for a few reasons. Number one, they announced that they were bringing back Josh Keaton to voice the Spectacular Spider-Man from the best Spider-Man cartoon of all time, and he was going to be a part of this movie. I couldn't not see the film after I heard that. He's on screen for 5 seconds. I got excited for nothing.
Who said he was supposed to have a starring role in the film? So far, this video doesn't have a good start. In the video, he starts by complimenting the animation while acknowledging pacing issues. Although most of his points are valid, but the latter half of the video is where his takes falls apart.
And it doesn't help that a lot of said buildup is so weirdly conceived, because the writing for the antagonists, and by extension Miles himself, is frankly really f***ed up. When they show us Spot's backstory, they explain in detail that because of Miles' actions, because of what Miles did to him, Spot lost his family, lost his career, was turned into some freakish malformed monster so people can't even look at him now, lost any hope of ever being able to have a relationship or lead a normal life, had no way of supporting himself anymore, so he had no choice but to turn to crime just to get money to survive, and Miles doesn't even realize what he did to him.
That is incorrect. Miles initially doubts the Spot's existence and believes him as just another villain of the week. However, after entering his hideout, Miles realizes that he was wrong. Sadly, Spot's anger blinds him when Miles reasons with him. Despite Miles' attempts to apologize, Spot stubbornly clings to his desire for revenge against Miles. Things come to a head when Spot tries to use the Collider's power for his own gain. Therefore, Miles steps in and tries everything in his power to stop him. If we are to determine who is to blame, the person we should point the finger at Kingpin, not Miles. This is because he created the Collider.
Seriously, how the hell is Spot the asshole in this situation? When the villain is more sympathetic than the fucking hero, you've got a big damn problem.
Miles was basically just trying to stop a bomb from destroying his city. Maybe he really is a bad guy in your eyes, I suppose.
And it's not even the only time the movie does that either. The second time they do it is with Miguel O'Hara, and he understands better than anyone the nightmarish consequences that happen when you f*** around with the multiverse. And wouldn't you know it, f***ing around with the multiverse is exactly what Miles wants to do, and the movie wants us to be on his side.
I find it difficult to understand why you are criticizing Miles for trying to save his father. If the only option of saving the multiverse was by letting his father die, could you do it? Can you imagine having to let someone you love and care for just die without even saying goodbye? In Spider-Man: No Way Home, Peter was guilty of something similar. While it may not be the same, he chose to keep the previous movie villains in his universe so he could cure them. However, in doing so, this caused massive consequences and he was tempted to let them die, but he didn't.
And what, pray tell, does Miles do when he learns this? The exact thing he shouldn't do. The exact thing that is going to make this problem so much f***ing worse for everyone, including him!
It's a difficult situation, as letting go someone dear without even saying goodbye is unbearable. It's not fair to fully blame Miles for his actions, because that would tell me that you're being unempathetic towards his situation.
So when the shit hits the fan, you've got Miles trying to do something that's going to get countless people killed and sodomize an entire universe into oblivion with no plan for how to actually prevent that. Miguel is desperately trying to stop him because Miguel is the only one acting responsibly in this situation, and the fucking movie actually tries to vilify him for it.
This makes me believe you disliked the movie because you thought Miguel O'Hara was the main villain. However, this is even the case in the slightest. While it's true that Miguel is seen as an antagonist in the story, he's not portrayed as a completely evil character. Rather, he's more of a sympathetic antagonist and we understand his perspective. This nuanced portrayal creates a more complex characterization of Miguel instead of making him a straight-up villain.
Throughout this whole narrative, Miles makes so many bad, dangerous, or horribly irresponsible decisions, and we're not at the end of it yet, but not only does the story continually take his side, but I have no doubt that it's ultimately going to end up vindicating him for all this, because the movie wants us to root for Miles even when he's doing something that's obviously wrong.
Additionally, it's important to note that the film doesn't favor Miles' viewpoint over others explicitly. Messing with the multiverse is a risk, and yet Miguel O'Hara is guilty of taking the role of a god without fully comprehending its complexities. Being Spider-Man involves making difficult decisions in the face of apparently impossible challenges, as well as maintaining integrity even when others fail. We are sometimes obliged to make decisions that are not always sensible, but are ours to make.
Yeah, sadly, that important lesson that Peter taught us all those years ago just doesn't resonate here. Not just because of how they treat Miles, but also because of how they treat Peter, who the movie delights in undermining, shitting on, and embarrassing at every fucking turn. Or did I imagine the pink bathrobe?
Insulting Peter B. Parker for being a father and being happy for his child is unnecessary and undermines the complexity and depth of his character. Why does it matter he's wearing a pink bathrobe? Peter B. was able to move on from the death of his Aunt May and mans up to win Mary Jane back. That's what matters. At least he's happy compared to how the comics are treating him nowadays.
And I really don't want to restart a whole big thing about why Miles can't have his own superhero identity. He's already a tokenized derivative knockoff version of a more popular superhero, so he's into science like Peter, he's got Peter's powers, using Peter's codename, dating Peter's ex, and fighting Peter's villains. And you wonder why people say Miles Morales is Miles Morales? It's not because those people are assholes, it's because Miles Morales has no fucking identity of his own outside of being Miles Morales.
From this point, you're only complaining Miles Morales is too similar to Peter Parker, which isn't even the point of the movie. Miles only shares Peter's nerdy traits and has natural feelings for Gwen. But outside of that, he still has both of his parents in his life. His role model uncle turned out to be a supervillain, and the Into the Spider-Verse movie depicts a creative and artsy side to Miles' character. He is not a black tokenization of Peter Parker. It's funny that you're paying attention to the color of his skin rather than other traits of his character. While yes, there are plenty of bad comics where they place Miles in what-if scenarios, but that's because Marvel Comics currently doesn't know who Miles is. But it doesn't change the point that there are plenty of differences that make Miles stand apart from Peter. It is a terrible take to call Miles a black version of Peter Parker. It will be too much to explain why in depth, so allow me to link a video in the description from Amazing PSM. He actually addresses the points in depth regarding the debate whether Miles counts as Spider-Man.
Classifying whether a character is Spider-Man or not has nothing to do with your opinions or beliefs about said character. If I hate Miles Morales, that doesn't change that he's Spider-Man, because not only does he tick the boxes that make him a Spider-Man themed hero, but also because the company who made him says so, even if they market him as Miles Morales to keep you from confusing him with Peter Parker.
And any attempts they do make to differentiate him even a little bit come off like either total bullshit or go against the identity they want Miles to have. For example, Miles is supposed to have the powers of a spider, right? So how does that include turning invisible and controlling electricity? I don't think spiders can do that. Does anyone want to explain this?
Here, Thorias is wrong again. Miles has Venom Shock, and yes, spiders do produce electricity. Miles does not turn invisible, he instead has camouflage powers.
Yeah, I'd like Miles to have his own unique stuff, but if that stuff doesn't make fucking sense, doesn't make him more interesting, and actually makes him less interesting, then it doesn't really count.
To end this video, I would like to say this about Thorias. I'm not saying he should like the movie or enjoy Miles as a character. This video wasn't made to make him to change his mind, but he is really coming off very vitriolic towards Miles Morales, the comic character, when the movie depiction is much different than how the comics portray him. You're driving to push a political agenda that is barely present in the film. Please do not push a culture war when that shouldn't even be the focus of the film. And to that end, while I do agree some points about the pacing and the cliffhanger ending, you're simply just nitpicking at this point. Do better next time.